turnover of the game.
Just about sealed the deal for his team.
Touchdown! Unreal effort tonight. Good morning it is on the hill in Larrytown.
This is what college football should look like.
That just happened.
I don't know if there's a deeper league in college football.
Big special going on. Touchdown! The Big 12 open for business.
All right,
Wow.
there it is. Goosebumps.
Wow.
Goosebumps. Yeah, I'm Brandon Helwig, publisher of UCFsports.com. Joined tonight by Roger, a.k.a. Night Bingle, and Night Fan Carson. Awesome to have you guys on board. Now, we've got a few more, I think a few more guys may join us as the hour goes on, as we kind of reminisce, reflect, celebrate, talk about what we're excited about, all leading up to 12 midnight when UCF officially becomes a member of the Big 12. For me, someone who has kind of grown up, so to speak, with UCF athletics and conference realignment and through all the different iterations through the years, being a Division 1A independent, the MAC in the early 2000s, Conference USA. I mean, I should have mentioned the A-Sun, the Atlantic Sun, UCF's conference before non-football conference back in the day. This is just an amazing moment, something that I think any UCF fan has dreamed of, to kind of be, whether it was the Big 12 or whatever conference it was going to be, what's considered at the highest level of college athletics. This is just kind of a surreal moment. I know the invitation came a couple years ago in September 2021. It just kind of seemed like it was taking forever to get here, that we'd get to 2023. And now that it's about to become official, I mean, words just can't describe how excited I am. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, for me, first of all, Alex Land, no suit today. Today's party time. It's Friday night. We're going into the Big 12, baby. So no jacket tonight. It's time to tip back a couple of drinks, celebrate, and I'm going to tip my cup to all of you. Brandon, you've seen it all. I mean, literally, you were involved before I was. I mean, I went to my first home game in '98.
So it's around the same time. I mean, my streak started in 97, I guess. I'm going to every game. I missed one a couple years ago when I was sick, but other than that, I've made every single home game since 97.
Yeah, and we're thankful for it. As far as being an encyclopedia of knowledge of UCF, everything, both in front of the scenes as a fan, but also behind the scenes. Honestly, for me, in my experience with this whole realignment thing, I just remember the Dante Culpepper years, getting my jersey from Dante, right? And then moving into, watching some of the flailing that we were doing, and then moving into Conference USA and missing out on the Big East. And then 2015 happened, and then 2016 happened, right? And we had the Fiesta Bowl in between. So for me, it's almost like we were on this up and down roller coaster. We all knew where we were going for a long time, both in football and everything else. And then finally, like, getting into the Big 12 and getting that invitation has just been phenomenal. So for me, it's validation more than anything. And I think we're seeing that hat is fire. I think we're seeing that in how we're being treated in the media and everything else. So for me, it's more of like a validation of everything. It's the next step for me, as I tell everybody. The Big 12, I don't think, is our final destination. So when it comes to that, I think that, I'm just excited to be where we are now. Have some fans that actually show up, right, to the games, opposing fans. And it's just a validation for everything that we've done.
Awesome. What about you, Carson? What are kind of your thoughts? I mean, I know I got to know you, I believe. Didn't your time at UCF kind of coincide with the opening of the Bounce House? Carson, can you hear me?
Carson. Yeah. Did everyone get knocked off there?
I'm not sure if it was you or us, but I was just saying, what are your kind of initial thoughts about UCF joining the Big 12? If memory recalls, I think your fandom with UCF, didn't that kind of start around the time the stadium opened? Wasn't that when you were a freshman?
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest with you, I always think that's sort of where the sort of like the jump off happened, right? Of course, we've had a huge fan base that started from the very beginning, and it grew at that point. But obviously, when you get on campus with a football stadium and a basketball arena, just it's a game changer, right? Everybody's talked about it over and over ad nauseum. But for me, I didn't know any different, right? So coming into that was like right away. It was like, okay, this is what it's going to be. We're going to be UCF, and that's it. I mean, I grew up a Miami fan. I know there's a lot of South Florida alumni that sort of came to UCF because it was far enough away from home, but it wasn't necessarily at home, and that was the place to be. So for me, it was right off, and I even have I pulled this out. I got the NC State Kevin right there on the. My mom actually laminated this for me back in the days. The
Nice.
Orlando.
Yeah.
I
mean, that was, and it's talking about different moments that happened. That game in particular is one that's maybe kind of underrated at this point when we talk about all the great moments of UCF the last 20 or so years. But that first play of that game, when it just, UCF's always play, you always, you want to get the
that was the first play
or whatever.
I was a freshman at Night Library.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I ever saw.
Yeah. And the
so
rest.
But you know me, the second half was a little difficult. I got a little bit upset. I got a little bit tight in that second half, but that was like the first memory for my class. And then obviously the first game against Texas and on from there. So it obviously it's been a long time coming, and I have to set this table in this way because I don't know that anyone will, and maybe someone will bring it up, but like on Twitter tweet, you were the first person that ever mentioned UCF and the Big 12 in the same sentence. There's no way that anybody else ever said UCF and the Big 12 before you did. There was
I know. I thought it was a good idea. I mean, I was pretty proud of myself for that. I mean, I think they were a little bit late picking up on it. And then in 2016, the Dog and Pony show, and everyone thought, maybe UCF had a chance to join the conference. And, I'm not really sure what exactly would have happened. There was all the rumors about, was it Endeavor or, Navigate. Navigate was the rumor that, they were kind of endorsing UCF back then. But, I don't think we felt as confident or as comfortable because, remember, that was coming off, last year of O'Leary and the winless season. And we hadn't had the Peach Bowl yet and the undefeated run. So I don't know. I mean, it was great to have. Would it have been better if UCF would have been at that level back then? Sure, would have been making that bigger paycheck all these years. But we had the seasons we did in the American a couple years later, and those were great memories. Chris, welcome.
What's up?
Can you hear us live from New York?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right.
Yeah.
You sound perfect.
Okay, cool. Yeah. But what I was going to add was I didn't think he was going to actually respond, but I was shitposting to Bob Bowlesby's son, Kyle. And I tweeted at him and he was just like, yeah, the Big 12 is going to do well. And I'm like, he should have gotten us in 2016. And he's just like, Texas. It was Texas. And I'm like, oh my God, I love that. But here I have something before. I mean, it's like a heat wave in here, but this is what I remember from my first year. Was this bad boy right here. I love to wear it all the time.
Oh, the helmet. Sweet.
It's a nice little sweater I get to wear at UCF game. What the hell? Where's the camera here? Yeah. So you have all the beautiful rivalries. Oh my God. Look at that. Rice. You got Marshall in there.
UCF.
Oh, this is CUS. This is AAC 3.0, no?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it is. Oof. Sorry, USF. Oof.
We don't say
But
that
anyway,
around here. It's the cows.
No, but the craziest thing is like, you'll, I don't know, catch yourself watching like highlights on YouTube. And the first ever highlight I remember like going on YouTube for was my freshman year. It was against Samford, and it was McDuffie's return. And I remember there being like less than 100 fans in that stadium. And I'm like, shit, like I didn't even know what college football was. And I was like, this ain't it. And then seeing where it's gone from then to now, it's utterly insane. And I'm wearing this hat. It's insane.
Where'd you get that hat? That's sweet. Was that an eBay find that I
yeah. You guys always try to snatch. Yeah. I mean, do you want the coolest thing I have? I showed someone here. You guys are going to love this. But you guys keep talking.
Okay.
Oh, okay. We're gonna keep talking. I love the 500 square foot apartment comment in there with the videotapes. Looks like the fireplace.
Those are books. Those are books,
they're
my
books.
friend.
Okay.
And then there's the space helmet, and then that's my fiance's Notre Dame shit.
Okay.
That we don't talk about because they don't win near 6 bowls. So,
what is that? Is
so
that a vest?
Yeah, and I'm gonna wear it at Boise, but there was something peculiar about it because I bought it for like $20 on eBay. If you guys read the tag over here.
Let's see. What does it say? DG. I don't know, man. Do you think so? Well,
yeah,
military ball.
Patched. I'm pretty sure that's real.
Yeah, I was like, I'm in New York. I need to fit in with the finance people here, so I was like, shit. Okay, 12 with like $15, cool. And then I'm like, oh, it's DG's. Damn. Okay. But super excited, guys. I can't believe it. Like, again, my basketball tickets are going to make me rich. I know whoever's from the UCF Athletics who refuses to sell me more tickets so that I could get back to university is not happy with me. But hey, I'm going to be there for Kansas. I'm going to be there for Oklahoma State. I'm going to be there for Kansas State. I'm flying down 15 times to watch these Southwestern teams. Unbelievable. Unreal.
Okay.
Unreal.
We got a fifth person on the panel. Eddie, what's up, man? How's it going? How are you?
Doing well, Brandon. I know I'm one of the I guess probably newer dungeon members featured here. So
yeah.
It's
so
what's
kind of your history with UCF? Like, what are some of your early memories and what were some of your favorite moments here since you've been following the UCF?
So I'm definitely of the bounce house ilk, if you will, because I was a freshman when they opened the stadium. So all I really know is UCF on campus. But really fell in love with the team and the program, as a freshman at that Texas game, and it's been full bore ever since. Season ticket holder, travel to games when I can, and it's funny. One of you mentioned the Quincy McDuffie video. I think it's titled "Quincy McDuffie is Fast," and I remember that. I mean, with UCF, like especially those early years at the bounce house, really until we got Godfrey and then Bortles, like quarterback play was rough. We went through the Calabrese days. Hodges did valiantly as a transfer. There was some tough times though. Just watching UCF's offense and then seeing just winning conference championships, and then the whole Frost era, and just the way the program's just transformed over the years. It's been incredible.
Yeah, Eddie, the fact that UCF was playing on campus, obviously you didn't know any different because you said that was your freshman year in 2007. How big of an impact do you think that, because you're the same age as Carson, like how big of an impact do you think that made on you and other freshmen? Because you got two of them right here talking. So for you to become diehard fans, if you were going to have to drive to the Citrus Bowl and it's just not the same and the atmosphere was lacking, like, do you think you'd be as big of a fan as you are now if UCF never played on campus? Kind of the same situation that South Florida is going through right now.
It would have just been harder to get as invested, I think. I mean, because I grew up, like probably many of us here, watching teams like Florida State, and you'd see their packed on-campus stadiums. And man, I'm really going to make myself look bad here, but before I went to UCF, I was at the UCF Florida game wearing a Florida shirt.
That's all right, man. That's all right. That's fine.
And I was like, I might go to this other school. I'm like, they have a decent number of fans here. Okay. But once I really saw the UCF campus as many as the recruits do. Like, you're like, wow, what is this place? Like, this is awesome. And then really fell in love with the school. But yeah, on campus, I think really changed everything. I don't know that I'd be as devoted, but I've been a season ticket holder since. I was one of the few, like, you had to do lottery, but I was like,
Yeah.
I want to be at all the games. So they had this student season ticket holder thing back then where you could pay like $100 for the 7 games.
Yeah.
I did that as a freshman and really throughout college. So.
Awesome. So what do you guys, I guess we'll kind of start with Roger, kind of go around the horn a little bit. What are you most looking forward to when it comes to the Big 12? I mean, there's, you could obviously a lot. It's probably going through everyone's mind right now, but what's one specific thing that you're really hyped up for in regard to the Big 12?
Well, I'll say this 2 ways. I'll say one for this season, and then 2 for, just our whole experience in the Big 12, right? So this season, definitely OU. Getting to play in their stadium. I know I watched your interview earlier, by the way. Great job. On that earlier. And I have to hearken that. Like, that OU, I think also this season, Baylor at home for the first game is going to be super exciting. To me, it reminds me of what Cincinnati was when we played that game at home. And I want to hear the bounce house that loud again and that much energy. And then overall, I think it's just having an opportunity to actually earn opportunity for the value that we bring to the sport. Folks are not going to denigrate us as much anymore. We're now part of the club. Our schedules won't get denigrated every time we have a great season. And actually having an opportunity at the playoff, because I feel like this moment in UCF's history, I think we're at a point where we can compete consistently, and with the opportunity to do that, I feel like for us there's always been a chip on our shoulder, and now we're going to get the opportunity for the proof in the pudding, and I have a feeling that we're going to do that like we always have. And so for me, the Big 12 means opportunity. It means being able to put the proof behind the pudding of everything that we've been saying, and getting the opportunity when we deserve it, which we didn't in the past. So that's what it means for me.
Carson, what about you? What are you most looking forward to when it comes to the Big 12?
Yeah, I mean, I love the road games, Brandon. I love the environment that those bring. I love to see, who from our fan base travels, right? And with this, I mean, it's just an entirely different level. I love to go to college football games around the country, and obviously UCF is first and foremost. I was able to an Alabama game last year during our bye week. Now it's like we go to some of these heritage, tradition-rich places in college football in our very own conference, and that's something that didn't exist before. So I'm excited to go into those environments to see the traditions and the heritage that those different fan bases have. I mean, that's honestly the most exciting thing. I have been to Oklahoma once, and we get to do that again this season for one time, obviously with Oklahoma, but all the other different fan bases in the Big 12 are really, really fantastic. And some of them maybe even sort of underrated. Like if you look at an Oklahoma State, maybe people don't understand, the fan base and how just, rabid they are and how many fans they really have. Obviously we don't get that one this year. But there's so many great places in this conference now, the ones that we're going to get to go to this year and also the ones we're going to get to go to in the future. So for sure, I'm excited to kind of knock all those off my list.
Absolutely. What about you, Chris? Unmute, and what are you most looking forward to other than getting rich off your basketball season tickets?
Yeah, no. I think the coolest thing is, for the past 8 or so years, it's been fun to go to the games and to experience the game. So we have the game and the game after part locked down shut. For me, it's the away games are cool. Don't get me wrong. Again, college towns, I live for it. I'm just excited to see what Memory Mall is going to look like, because I got to experience in Fort Lauderdale when I was visiting my family that I think it was the round of 64 or something like that. I went to downtown Fort Lauderdale and there were just packed full bars of like Kansas fans and then Baylor fans and then Kansas State fans. It was insane. So I'm like, wow, if they do this for basketball, what's Memory Mall going to look like when they're traveling to Orlando for, visit Orlando? Incredible. Definitely should give us some tax dollars off that. But I'm just excited to see how Memory Mall is going to look. I mean, it's insane every time I go to campus, and it's just more and more tents and more people. And then the parking lots are now tailgate zones. So I just want to know what it's going to look like for West Virginia and all that. I'm excited.
Awesome. So, Eddie, what are you most looking forward to when it comes to the Big 12?
It's going to be nice. Part of it is what we're leaving behind. No more Temple games, no more UConn. Just no more games against the schools that, quite frankly, don't care about football. Like every school we're going to play now cares deeply about football, and you're going to be in packed stadiums. You're going to have a lot of road visiting fans, and every week's going to be a test. There's no longer, us pulling out the schedule. Okay, who's our one P5 home game? Oh, we got Louisville this year. No, now it's, hey, we got 4 or 5 of these every year. You have great road trip opportunities. Probably the one I'm most likely to take is West Virginia, actually, because I got family in Pittsburgh. So that's a very doable drive from there. So really just looking forward to that moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of to echo what you just said, Eddie, and what Carson said. Just when you're playing teams that actually have fans on a week-to-week basis, it just seems like in the American schedule, there's only a few weeks out of the year where it just seemed like it was fun and exciting to follow through the week, whether it's, interacting with fans on Twitter, looking at other message boards, just kind of the back and forth that comes, when you play another opponent. And it just seemed, it was like a little bit when UCF played East Carolina and Cincinnati, and I guess USF, and that was really about it that, you would really get hyped up for. The fact that you're going to be playing teams that actually have fan bases, and honestly, fan bases that might be probably bigger than UCF. That's going to be a lot of fun going to different environments. C. Newton, what's up, man? You joined us tonight. I don't know if you can turn on your mic. We're just kind of talking about what aspect of the Big 12 that we're most looking forward to. What about you? What are you most looking forward to when it comes to the Big 12?
Yeah, so similar sentiments. I mean, I live in Texas, so that's I'm pretty excited about that. I can finally see some more games in person for UCF. I think there's like 5 campuses within driving distance of where I live. So as we go through the schedule and everything like that in every season, we're pretty excited about that, to see some more UCF games in person. So that's really the biggest thing. I mean, I think having fan bases that care and towns that care, to see Texas Tech, even though, you hear about Lubbock and you go there once and that's enough. But, you go there once and it's going to be, I think, an amazing time, or, going up to Stillwater, all these other different places. So that's probably the number one thing, is just I'm happy that I'm where I'm at, so I can see some UCF games, at least more than I can in the past. That's what stands out to me for sure.
Awesome. I think we had a question here in the chat from Matt about the craziest road trip bizarre you've been on. I have to think about that for a minute. In Conference USA, I went to every venue except for Rice. But just the trips that you always kind of dread, and is always those Tulsa games. I mean, you go to Tulsa, and it's like
so bad.
There's like a few hundred fans in the stands. It's usually freezing cold. There was that, the conference championship game in 2012 with the, what was it, the Phantom return there, where UCF thought the play was blown dead, or it was a fair catch, or whatever they thought, and ran it back, and that decided the game. I mean, that was absolutely bizarre. And that's just that's a kind of just a strange place. It's like, how is this team, FBS that's kind of how you feel. I mean, I will say this, they were ranked in 2008, I believe it was, and they actually had somewhat of a crowd in that game, but every other game after that, it's like, this is a strange environment. I don't know, but there's always been crazy. Like that East Carolina game to the regular season finale 2014, the Hale Perryman catch. I mean, that was just, you just couldn't believe the outcome. It was just, it was like shaking. It was so crazy. I don't think anyone could have foreseen that.
Well, I was shaking with anger. And then I actually turned it off, like when they got and then I turned it back on right when it happened. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this actually happened. And then there was the game, our first win against USF. That was the other one too that was kind of like that. I don't know if you remember that one, Brandon. But that after that interception, it was nuts. The stadium got really loud.
Yeah. So what road game are you most looking forward to? I feel like Oklahoma is the one that I know a lot of fans have likely booked. I know there's a nonstop Southwest flight that goes from Orlando to Oklahoma City that I'm pretty confident is going to be completely jam-packed with UCF fans. But whether it's this season road trips or, I guess we don't know what the schedule is for next year. I guess it's kind of pending. We don't know if Colorado or whoever else might be in the league by 2024. Maybe we'll know that in the next few months. But just generally speaking, when you look at the Big 12 venues, what road trip, if you have the opportunity, that you're going to be most excited to make?
It's got to be West Virginia, right?
That's what I was going to say. West Virginia, they seem like they're a rowdy fan base. So I'm on board with that. I want to see some I don't know if I can burn a couch in West Virginia. Is that allowed?
It's absolutely.
It's illegal now.
It's
That's against That's against literally their legal state laws, apparently. So please, no one pull the couches out because
and it's crazy. It's a recent law too. Like if they see any couches on the side of the house or in the backyard or in your front yard, they'll fine your ass like hundreds of bucks, and it's college kids.
Oh man, well, maybe we could drag somebody else's couch out, so burn it and then run. I don't know.
But Brandon, since you got to go to Kansas State during the apocalypse in 2009, what was that like? Like, what good vibes still, even though everybody thought they were going to die, but
I just remember about that trip, about how Kansas State people were incredibly nice. I wasn't in Manhattan very long because I was driving over late the night before from Kansas City. It's like a 2-hour drive. And then the game was like, I think it was supposed to be at 11 a.m. or something like that. And then I was driving back to Kansas City after the game. But I just remember everyone was really nice. But then when that storm comes in, I mean, we all know about, tornadoes in Kansas and Wizard of Oz and, all that stuff. But, that was just, you kind of wondered for a minute, like, are we safe? Are we in danger here? And I believe what they did is that for fans in the stands, they did evacuate and they had people go into the basketball arena. I went up into the press box, but I believe they did have people evacuate. I think the arena was next door to the stadium. And that's what happened then. But yeah, I'm super jacked up about that trip. It's a little bit difficult to get there. You got to fly here, drive 2 hours there, but I am super jacked up about it. And I guess we're welcomed by another member of the panel, Daily Drama. What's up?
What's up, my brothers? How we doing? There's a lot of people in here tonight.
Yeah. We just kind
of
like
the Brady brunch.
What helmet do you have? Like a gaming headset? Is that what it is?
I think it was UCF 93. She sent me this because my microphone was atrocious. This is what I've been rocking with now.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit late to join us. We've just been kind of talking about whatever. We were just talking about, what aspects of the Big 12 that we're most looking forward to. I mean, you could pretty much answer any way you want to, but what about you, Dolly? What aspect of UCF in the Big 12 are you most excited about?
I mean, we haven't even played it down of football, and we already had more interaction with people the last few weeks. Just people chiming in on the Orlando wheel being lit up and all that was pretty cool. So just having some fan bases to interact with, people that actually care about, not having to fret losing a midseason game and not having a meaningful bowl at the end of the year, and just some good camaraderie, man. It's cool to kind of be a part of something, and it's also been interesting to see other kind of CUSA teams move up to the American, and for them to be stoked. And then us as well, with our new four that, BYU's coming from being an independent all that time. And then Cincinnati as well, along with Houston. It's just great vibes. And it's almost like a little bit of a tease because we're going to be in the Big 12 tonight officially, but we still got a ways away to that first game.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Eric Lopez, man, what's up? How are you?
I'm doing good. I just want to make a cameo, Brandon, because first of all, Carson is on here, so I had to be on the airwaves as Carson, like back in the radio days when the sports station 1080 days, Brandon. But Brandon, you and I met. Going now is going to be 22 years now at Clemson, Death Valley. UCF's an independent against Clemson. We met on the field there. Here we are 22 years later talking about road trips. And I think I will answer the question you just asked. Oklahoma is the one that's clearly the one I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. I got a good question that we'll start with Eric. What sport do you believe will be the most competitive in the shortest amount of time in the Big 12? And what do you think will be the first Big 12 conference championship by a UCF team?
Ooh, I think women's soccer will be the first conference championship. There's no juggernaut in women's soccer in the Big 12. I think softball will be right there, but we need Oklahoma to leave first. So, although I think it would be good. I think they'd be top 25 next year. I think those are the two sports the most ready to compete right away. And look, I think I'm excited for Rich Wallace and what he's going to build here with that staff, Brandon. You know that staff very well, what he's built there. I think baseball, as we've seen with the big numbers this year, I think the Big 12 baseball, I think we could be finally be competitive and play to the potential that I think you and I kind of feel this baseball program is capable of.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Baseball's kind of been the most disappointing sport if you honestly look at it over the last maybe the last 15 or so years when you look at UCF. But Roger, kind of on that note, maybe what do you think is a sport that's going to have the most early success? And just to kind of, shift it to football, how quickly do you think UCF football can be competitive for a Big 12 championship? I mean, you got to get to the championship game, you got to win it. Who knows what can happen and anything like that. But when do you think, how soon can UCF at least be in the hunt when we get to November and the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season where they have a realistic chance to compete for a championship?
Yeah, so, to answer your first question, I was actually going to go with volleyball, softball as well. But to Elo's point, softball's got that juggernaut in Oklahoma to contend with. So I think volleyball will be right there. As far as football is concerned, I feel like just from a depth, we're starting now to get those blue chip recruits or more of them on a consistent basis. So for me, it's like I'm going to say probably 2 to 3 years for us to compete for a championship. And the reason I say that is give those blue chippers time to work themselves into the college game. It's different when you're in college, and then adding some more for depth. And then, I think the quarterback situation, we may be in a much better position to get quarterbacks, nothing against our current quarterbacks. But I think that, once we have some depth on the defense and we have a little more cachet when it comes to quarterbacks, I think we'll be in much better shape. So I'm going to say 2 to 3 years.
Absolutely. What about you, Carson? What do you think about football being competitive in the Big 12? And do you maybe have a pick for the sport you think will win the first UCF Big 12 title?
Yeah, so I do believe, like kind of Elo said, that I think there's a lot of possibility with baseball in the Big 12. I think that's the program that, just sort of like traditionally and from a location standpoint and all the factors that UCF has going for it, that has underachieved mightily, that really has a chance to jump up and show the country and maybe even jump into a super regional or pop into Omaha quick. I do believe in Rich Wallace. I know I heard you, Brandon, on one of the podcasts also sort of echoing that thought. And listen, I mean, as some of the people in this country have said, some of the national college football writers, some of the people that don't just cover this sport from a local or a statewide basis, but cover the country in terms of college football, they've said, look, UCF is not going to back down. UCF is here to play. They're here to win. They're here to find how can we win in this conference. And And so I think, obviously the sales have to break right a little bit. And there's certain things, certainly with the quarterback position, always offensive line you look at. How is that going to gel together? What's going to happen, mainly probably in the front seven defensively. But as even and as balanced and as fun as the Big 12 is, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see UCF in Dallas at the end of the year in Jerry's world, sitting there in the title game against Texas or Oklahoma or Kansas State or someone of that ilk. Certainly I think that the expectation is, hey, let's just get bowl eligible. Let's win 6-7 games. But I know that Gus Malzahn, I know his staff, I know the job they've done, I know the way they've built this program. It's not going to be, hey, let's just go in and be happy to be there. It's going to be, let's go in and let's win some games.
Absolutely. I'm just going to jump in here and kind of echo what Carson said. I don't know if I'm drinking the Kool-Aid or what, but I'm becoming more bullish by the day about UCF's chances this season. I think kind of the popular thing to say, or the, kind of politically correct, not really, but whatever the word is to say, you want to reach a bowl game, which is true. I think that's the floor of what your expectations should be for this season. But, there's been a lot. I wish we could see more in terms of practice. Spring game was what we saw what they wanted us to see. All the practices under Gus Malzahn are closed. But I've heard a lot of great things about John Rice Plumlee and his development and working with Darren Hinshaw, who's now like a real quarterback coach, someone who played the actual position of quarterback. And I think people forget. And I said this on the 365 today. Last year was his first year as a full-time starting quarterback. He had been receiver at Ole Miss. The only reason he really played as a freshman because they had some injuries. But, it's not crazy to think that you're going to see a huge jump in John Rice from last year to this year. And, we know he can run like crazy as long as he stays healthy. If he can put part of the passing element together, I think UCF is a dark horse for the Big 12 championship, and that's not me predicting it's going to happen, but no one was predicting TCU to do what they did last year and make it to the college football playoff. I'm just saying, I'm extremely interested to see how the season goes, and I wouldn't be like Carson. I wouldn't be surprised, or I wouldn't be shocked if UCF is playing in Arlington that first Saturday of December. What about you, Chris? What do you think about?
I agree. It's just this guy, unbelievable. Met him when he came out to New York, and he just struck me as really bullish, and like not skeptical. He knew that he had a couple of writers there, and that they would just like pump out whatever he said. He's like, "Oh, who gives a shit?" And then just went on and just talked about how he really does feel really good. Obviously, the JRP thing. Let's see what happens, but I definitely think. I mean, Brandon, since you're closer to it than I was, I just had graduated. The year that we went to the Fiesta Bowl and beat our Fiesta Bowl brethren, or what are we going to call that rivalry? The Fiesta rivalry. What was the vibe like that year? Because it does eerily feel bullish this year. And I don't know if it was felt at all that like the preseason for the Fiesta.
Not really. I mean, UCF was coming off that was 2012. There was no anticipation of what was going to happen that year. I mean,
Brandon,
no one was predicting that.
You know what I'm thinking about? Who like a shot in the arm where things were kind of set up, but it was a shot in the arm that really kind of differentiated us for that 13 year is when we got Charlie Taff. And you imagine like a Charlie Taff
that's exactly right. Yeah.
That just kind of whispers into enough a little bit for him to kind of put it all together. I mean, I was looking at that 13 year that we had, man. I mean, we had some big boy games at Penn State, went toe to toe with South Carolina, at Louisville on the road, their only loss that year. I mean, that was a serious schedule for our first year in a new conference. And, not saying it's not, it's different challenges this year as well. Some bigger environments as week to week, but I kind of get that vibe. But I still think we're being a little bit gaslit with the whole JRP thing, man. that our
Well,
QB,
we all, I think UCF fans got to believe in JRP, because if it's not John Rice Plumlee, who is it going to be? Is it going to be Timmy McClain? Is it going to be the transfer from Charlotte? I mean, there's no proven depth there. So you're just hoping that he's the guy to put it together for his final year of college football.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm not a necessarily a John Rice Plumlee believer, but like, if you think about things again, I think that there is some merit into that second season. Hasn't really played a full year at QB. I do think Darren Henshaw is fantastic as a coach, as a teacher, as a coordinator. So if you put all those things together, if you just get a little more out of the passing game with John Rice, with the running element that keeps people honest, I mean, I think it's closer than people believe. That's why I say, don't be shocked if UCF makes it to Jerry's World. Now, again, the expectation is, hey, win 6-7 games and you're thrilled, right? You get to go to a bowl game that maybe you had no business being in the American or in another conference, but I don't think it's crazy to believe it.
Absolutely. See, Newton, you got any thoughts about it? Are you getting hyped up? Are you on the JRP train? You're getting excited? It's going to be an undefeated year. Like, what are you thinking about this year?
Yeah, I don't know about going undefeated, but I think my biggest question is still going to be the defense, because the defense was just jarring to see this past season, where it started out pretty decent and then just at the stretch, as I felt like, kind of fell apart. Obviously, there are things going on with coaching and things like that going on, but I mean, it's an interesting year. I think it's exciting because, like, I think if the pieces are there and JRP stays healthy and just the team overall stays healthy, then I think, yeah, we're in a really good position to do some damage. I don't know. I'm excited to find out, but I think there's some hope there, like some others have said, for sure.
Well, this is pretty much obvious, but what will tell me if UCF is ready is if they can go out to Boise and deal with that long plane ride. I know Boise is not maybe the Boise of a few years ago, but it's still going to be a solid team. Maybe I don't know who you would compare them to in the existing Big 12, maybe a lower tier Big 12 team. I don't know. But if they go out there and they take care of business and win, by a convincing margin, because that's going to be a similar trip. I mean, that's actually going to be a further trip than anywhere else UCF's going to go in the Big 12. That will tell me a lot about this UCF team.
I think Boise, they were kind of a mess at the beginning of the year, but kind of put it together towards the end. And for us, it's, hey, we've got a new coordinator. JRP is going to, be throwing the ball a lot more than he did last year. So, we have a stable of backs. Do we have that punishing back like we had with Bowser, who just basically ran over him, SEC style, right? So for me, it's all right. If the offense comes together in the first few games before we get out to Boise, I think that's going to be the biggest tell, because I think defensively it's more about depth for me. I think we were going to have a strong D line, which is awesome, which will help the secondary out. But the secondary is still a question mark for me as far as depth is concerned for a full season. And then secondly, how quickly is JRP going to be able to adapt to an increase in the passing game and a little bit different of a philosophy there? I think those are going to be the two big questions that set the tone.
What about you, Eddie? Are you kind of in the camp that it'd be great to get to 6 wins and get to a bowl game, or are you kind of drinking the Kool-Aid like a couple of us and thinking that the expectations maybe are a little bit higher than that, or Big 12 championship? What's kind of your gut feeling? I mean, we don't know anything right now. Preseason camp hasn't started, but what's kind of your general consensus of how you think this season is going to go?
So this is certainly hopium season, and I am JR pilled. I actually believe he's never going to be the kind of passer that, say, KZ was, or even the guy we'll visit in Norman in the middle of the season, but if he's a little more accurate, he's comfortable in the offense, and he's truly, learning from Henshaw, and we're actually taking more shots downfield, which I think, it'll be nice to hopefully not see us throw, 10 bubble screens to a Ryan O'Keefe type anymore. Maybe that gets decreased when we go downfield, and those little changes, I think it's going to add up to something good. Now, granted, the competition's stiffer. We all know that. But the Big 12, I don't know. Like, history is at least on our side. KZ was a second-year guy. Bortles was kind of a second-year starter. That 13 year, I know he took over midway that 2011 year with Godfrey. But so we got some history on our side with this. Not expecting it, but I'm cautiously optimistic that it's not just going to be 7 wins, that we're going to make a little bit of noise this year.
Yeah, let's briefly touch on basketball as we get closer to midnight. I think that's really the has been the premier sport for the Big 12 the past few years.
Pumpkin at midnight.
The number one conference, and UCF. I mean, that's got to be maybe women's basketball. We got to see where that program is. They've kind of that was a tough transition losing Coach Abe, and we're still not really sure what's going on with that program either. But with men's basketball, that's going to be quite the step up in competition. The roster is going to be completely turned over, although I guess, Darius Johnson and CJ Walker, there is some continuity there. But how much are you looking forward to Big 12 basketball? I mean, it's still going to be a lot of fun. We'll see how UCF does. I never count out Johnny Dawkins. I think he's, and maybe I'll mute Chris on this, but I think he's kind of underrated. He's underappreciated by the fan base. That maybe there's some elements that he could be better at, but he gets the most out of his players and out of his teams. So
he's doing a lot. He's doing a lot more with less.
I'm born again Johnny Dawkins with what we've seen with the NIL market and whatever, it's insane. Johnny, if you're listening, I don't think you ever will, but I'm behind you, man. It sucks. I mean, you're going into the best conference. If this was pre-NIL, I mean, UCF would be signing up 5-star kids. What is it?
Well, no,
Michael Chandler. I don't know.
Oh, here's the thing about basketball. There was always money involved for the top players. I mean, now that it's legal, I think the market has actually increased. I think guys are making, obviously now that they can legally get paid, they're getting paid way more than they would have. I mean, you've got backup centers that are transferring. Well, I mean, I'm not going to name names, but if anyone's smart, they can figure it out. A backup center at one Big 12 school transferred to another Big 12 school, and I think is getting $500,000. I mean, that's insane. Football. Most of these football players aren't getting anywhere near that. But the market for college basketball at NIL, and I don't really want to talk about it or discuss, because I know fans don't want to hear it. I mean, you don't want to hear what's really going on with some of this stuff. I mean, people kind of beat around the bush, but it's just it's a real gut punch. Like for me, I want to have a team that you get to know and you get to see develop over a period of years. You remember BJ Taylor and Taco and Chad Brown, those guys when they were freshmen and how they developed. And now it's even with the NIL elements out of it, with the transfer portal, guys are just in and out. It's who are these guys? Do they really want to be here? Was this just their best option when they hit the portal? How much do they really care about the name on the front of the jersey? That being said, I did like the team this past year. Obviously with Taylor Hendricks, there were some good personalities on that team. I liked CJ Kelly a lot, but that's just that's kind of disillusioning me a little bit, is just when you see the roster turnover. And that's going on with, it's not just UCF. That's happening. It seems like it's more of a basketball issue than a football issue. And I just wish there'd be something to kind of, keep some consistency in terms of roster.
Yeah, I think it's just from the money perspective. It's you can get 2 guys, 1 guy, and it'll turn the team's fortunes around instantaneously. It's crazy. So like you were saying, in the NFL, in football, it's very much you can pay a certain center to transfer to Miami, and the kid could do what he did against East Carolina a couple of years ago, and go through 55 penalties. But it's a really bad ROI from a football perspective, NIL versus basketball. Basketball.
I mean,
Insane.
the thing is too, when you think about basketball, right? There's a lot fewer roster spots, so a lot more of that money is consolidated, right? If we took the football budget and applied to basketball, you could pay 500-600K for somebody, versus spreading it out over maybe the top 30-40 players on an 80-player roster. So that's really the challenge with basketball. And for us as UCF, it's an and proposition for NIL. But going beyond that, back to your original question, you know, I think you hit on something, Brandon. It was what I was thinking about when you initially asked the question, which is we don't have consistency in our roster. And in basketball, a team has to have at least a year to figure out how each other plays, to know where someone's going to be on, when it comes to spacing on the floor, when to pass it, etc. We haven't had that consistency. And even during the Taco years, we only had that for what, 2 or 3, well, maybe 1 to 2 seasons, right? Because everybody was injured. Someone was injured. Adonis Enriquez went out. BJ was injured. Taco was out. So we didn't really have any consistency there. And that's what I think we need. Can we compete for the players? I think we have the brand now. But I think Johnny's being run over in the off season. And that brings up this year. I mean, look what happened with the kid from Eastern Europe or whatever that came here, committed to us, signed, and then bounced, right? So from a basketball perspective, until we can lock that up a little bit, Alex, I'm with you. I think we're going to struggle a lot. And, I'll take beating Kansas in football while I can, because I don't see us beating them in basketball for a long time.
Yeah, just to add a positive note, though, I mean, like, just that feeling that, I got to see on the TV when Michigan came to town before their playoff in 2021 or whatever. Man, it was just insane. Even if we were losing or winning, I'm just excited to experience the dungeon with these fan bases, man. Like in basketball, I'm just so excited. I don't care if they run us over, but we get to be like NC State to everybody in the ACC, where it's like, hey, we could knock Kansas State in one of those games, man. You just never know. I'm just excited for that versus thinking, oh man, can we upset Tulsa this year in basketball? So, I mean, still super exciting for basketball alone, man. I mean, I'm hyped.
There's one thing we really haven't talked about tonight, and I've been thinking about it at various times, and at least obviously the last year and a half to 2 years, is the fact that UCF is the only school in Florida going to the Big 12 that for the last 20 years, and at first it was kind of an internet rivalry with South Florida and how they got the Big East spot 20 years ago, and they were the BCS program, beating UCF 64-12. They were number 2 in the nation, and it just seemed like UCF might have missed their opportunity. I mean, it was, if you would have told me leaving Raymond James Stadium and anyone else that was at that game that just be patient, just a few more years, UCF is going to have the superior program, and there'll be a time where UCF is the one that's going to be in the BCS, or what is now known as the Power 5, and USF is going to be left behind. That I wouldn't have believed it that day. I'm kind of conflicted on the whole South Florida stuff. I really don't have any personal animosity towards any of those people. I like to, kind of play up the villain, I guess, to their fans and stuff, and they hate me. I know that, but
but you're not nearly as bad as their people are. They take it to a personal level, right? Like you just get like slights in there every once in a while, right? So it's totally different.
Yeah, but I mean, there is some satisfaction though. I'm just saying that for Judy, for the president, Judy Ginshaft, and what she did through the years to kind of do what she could do to kind of hold UCF back, and how she was very, UCF was really going to be the next man up for the Big East. I think in that television contract that they initially turned down, that pretty much led to the conference falling apart. That was all her doing. They had a deal, and the deal was going to be, you're going to have to add another team to have more conference games, and it was going to be UCF, and she completely blew that up. And look what happened now.
I will say that, I hope that we don't go to that level, like to where we put ourselves above the conference. But I will say that'll is also an indictment of the conference at the time too, where the Big East allowed that to happen. The Big East should have been like, shut the hell up. You're not going to destroy this conference over getting Villanova to a football program, like that should have been the case. So that's partially the Big East and bad leadership, but I hope that if USF gets to this level or whatever, they earn it on theirs for themselves. And that if, we don't need to help them out or anything like that, but we also shouldn't be the ones to pull what they did either at the same time.
Are any of you other guys? Are you happy, satisfied, smug? Are you a little bit? Is it bittersweet? I mean, even though you want UCF to have the upper hand, just program wise within the state. I mean, are you saddened? Maybe to see the war on I-4. I mean, I'm sure they'll play at some point in the future. Like, what's kind of your gut feelings about that element?
To be honest, I mean, I that 07 game that you mentioned was my first experience of the rivalry. And my best friend went with me to UCF. My second best friend from high school took a baseball scholarship to USF. And he actually, we got to Tampa the day before the football game, and they were doing fall baseball practice. And we were with his mom. We were in the stands watching their fall baseball practice. I was a freshman. My best friend was a freshman. Obviously, our friend on the field was a freshman, and he walked off the field and said, "Yeah, I just got cut from the team." So they literally cut him as a freshman, and then the next day, we were in the club level with him. He had gotten us tickets to that game, and he was all like, "Just go US." I'm like, "You just got cut." And so that was it for me from that day forward. And I've been to every UCF game since, whether it's in Tampa or Orlando. And God bless them, but I don't miss them right now. This world of college football is kind of strange. There's a lot of schools that don't have those natural geographic rivalries because of the conference that they're in. And so for me, I'm excited to see who these new schools who we're with and for South Florida, if there comes a time in the future where the conferences are bigger or there's an opportunity for them, fine. But right now it's sort of like out of sight, out of mind.
I'm excited for FAU, man. I just want to watch all those games now. I'm hoot, 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 hoot.
Who'd have thought?
Or whatever they do.
We're getting close to midnight. There was a big VIP shindig at President Cartwright's house tonight.
That's why it's late.
Yeah, it's on Instagram live right now. Let's see if this
Instagram
works.
Live? What?
Yeah.
Can you do a screen share?
I love my buddy Taylor Gehring. Shout out to Ethereum. Too bad I didn't.
And then we went to the back.
Is the audio coming through?
Yes.
And then we're fortunate to get in the Conference USA. And then for about an hour and a half, we're in the Big East. And then came the American. And no program dominated the American, not just in football, but all sports like UCF did. And I think for all of you that have been here for all those years, now just imagine what happens in a matter of a couple of minutes. It's an incredible accomplishment. We're the youngest Power 5 school in the country, and we have so many first things that are going to lie ahead, and the rest of them are going to find out what we're all about, because we're just getting started, right?
This is at Dr. Cartwright's house, by the way, on campus.
We're going to celebrate. Everyone's going to cook champagne. And we're going to treat this like it's the best New Year's Eve ever, because we're about to enter an incredible new era of UCF athletics. We got over 400 people streaming this online right now. Okay, so they want to hear you go crazy. They're going to come down with us. I think we got about 55 seconds to go. So we thank all of you that have been here every step of the way. Like I said, it doesn't happen without the great people like all of you. We're so glad you're here tonight to join us for this memorable moment. So we'll work this to about 40 seconds. And then we're going to celebrate, and then Terry Hodge is going to come up and tell you everything you need to know about where we go. Because Terry said, now the work begins, okay? Now the work really begins to compete and win championships. And you'll dive in the pool, I don't know, I doubt it. count this down. We got 20 seconds. We got a Big 12 flag right there. And let's welcome in the Power 5 of the Big 12 as we count it down now in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Brandon, try to spot any of the heavy hitters.
They've got about 450 viewers. We've got about 230 watching this. So there's a few more people watching this than there he is. There's Terry. Tell us about it, Terry.
Here we go.
So I want you to finish this lyric. Tonight's the night. Oh my God.
Some Frankie Valli? Come on.
Tonight's the night. Oh my God. We don't have that many 50-year-olds in this.
What is happening?
So anyway, thank you for being here tonight. It's been a great time. I want to thank our staff, UCF athletic staff. I want to thank the president and his cabinet, the university leadership, because without them, let me tell you, I've always said this, universities make athletic programs, not athletic directors, not head coaches, not athletic staff. They have to have the support. So let's give a round of applause for our fearless leader, Dr. Carter. Just a couple things real quick. We'll do another toast internally here. Under the direction of President Cartwright, and as years go on, we're going to look back at July 1st, 2023, as a new beginning in UCF athletics. And yeah, absolutely. And as we enter into now that we're in the Big 12 today. Now that we're in the Big 12, it's really two prongs now. First, we have to pay homage to all the amazing student athletes, the coaches, our fans, our alumni, our donors. We have two of our naming rights sponsors here tonight. Yes, and our university leadership, our administration, all the support staff. We have to pay homage to them. But most importantly, the lifeblood of our campus, which is our student body, which you all were at one time. So thank you, sir. They all played a major role in the trajectory of our program, and that we would be in position today without them. So secondly, the challenges ahead of us. We have to challenge the current Knights teams and our student athletes to absolutely go on point and to be the best they possibly can be. And they certainly have to take advantage of all the timely opportunities that they have to distinguish themselves going forward. Being the first team. Who's going to be the first team to win a conference championship? Who's going to be the first team to first time to win, to be the coach of the year? Who's going to be the first to be all conference? Who's going to be first to be all academic? We are going to love those milestones as we go along. And then also cannot forget about Bob Bowlesby, the day that he came to our house. Bob Bowlesby came to meet with myself, Alex Martins, and Alex Cartwright.
I'm waiting to see the collection plate go around.
Bob Bowlesby, the Big 12 chancellors and presidents, the 8 ADs that have a lot of confidence
some champagne
and
and it
in
feels
us,
wrong
that we believe that we will show them that it's well placed in the confidence and belief that they gave us. So I would like to now, it's also like to thank Brett Yormark for the amazing things that he's done. Yes.
It's champagne.
So
Daddy Earmark.
Woo! If you would, please, I invite you to lift your glass in tribute to the amazing accomplishments that our
Oh, he's not going to get
There's
that.
DeSalvo. There he is.
UCF Athletics has done and displayed.
Love me DeSalvo.
And I would like to say, we can go all the way back
Yeah, you
until the
heard
very
right,
first
Dolly.
event when men's basketball played in 1969. That was their very first event. 1969. So, and also, we'd like to anticipate all the unbelievable things that will happen and have a lot of momentum. So, I would like to tell you, cheers to UCF and UCF Athletics, and here's to the future success of the Big 12 Conference.
That's cool.
All right.
Okay.
We think that's it? Are they going to go
I didn't
anymore?
know if he was going to land that plane.
Okay, here comes Mark. Greenway, the only way.
It's your job. Now, you make the trip from the road game to
Underneath
football,
receipts is an
basketball, and
envelope.
sports. You get out there and support the Knights of the Balance House because now the fun just begins. Believe it or not, we got a football game in less than 2 months. Who's ready for it again?
All right, do the knighting ceremony.
Are they going to knight the Big 12 sign? What are they doing?
Football, basketball. We got Rick Wallace and Rick Sawyer, we got baseball coach. Right back there, Rick Wallace.
Oh, I see some people. I see the Hagels, the space couple. They're in the
Where's the
crowd.
horse guy, though, Brandon? Horse guy.
You know, that's a great question.
Great question. Are you going to open up a thread? Oh my God. I did not see him in New York, by the way.
That's
I
a
did
wrap.
not see him in-
Someone's got to jump in that pool. Come on, Cartwright. It's over.
Oh.
All right.
They should have had me there, Brandon.
And that was it. That was exciting. I guess. I mean, it's kind of going to be anticlimactic in a little bit. I mean, it's not like the ball was going to be dropping, but yeah. Well, it's official. How does it feel? Do you feel any different?
Yes. It feels a heck of a lot different because now I don't have to say, hey, we're joining the Big 12. We are in the Big 12, right? So like I can tell you where I'm at in North Florida usually. A lot of the SEC folks I talk to, they're actually like, they know about it. They're intrigued about it, all that fun stuff. But now I can say, yes, now we're joining the Big 12. We are the Big 12.
Well, we finally joined a conference, finally, after all these years.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, I think someone that we saw in that video that, he always avoids the spotlight. He always avoids the sort of credit. But I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think we're in the Big 12 without Eric DeSalvo. I think, to be honest, I think he's one of the most, if not the most important person since I have been a fan of this program, an alumni, which has been since 2007, because it has all been about brand. It is about been growing that brand. It is about been building that brand. And what he has done on social media and the way he's understood who he's speaking to through that. And obviously he's got a team of people. He's had different people throughout the years. Some of them have stayed around longer than others, but he is the guy guiding that boat. And to be honest with you, I think Eric DeSalvo, out of anyone in athletics, in that athletic department, since I've been here in 2007, deserves the most credit for us being in the Big 12 today.
Yeah, I absolutely. I would add Jimmy Skiles to that list of just people that have a continuity. And that's the whole thing. You got athletic departments got to have people who, they went to this school. They understand. They're not just passing through and they're going to be there 2, 3, 4 years and they're gone. Another name I got to bring up, John Kavadik. He no longer works at UCF, but he was one of those guys who really cared about UCF. It wasn't just a job to him. And UCF's got that now with Eric DeSalvo and Jimmy Skiles, and having people like that is absolutely priceless.
Mark Wright Mark Wright.
Mark Wright, that's another one. Absolutely, Mark Wright.
And
100%.
you know, I read something recently, and I don't remember. You know, there's been so many great press pieces this week across the country. A lot of them in Big 12 land, whether it's the Kansas City Star, or the Oklahoman, or whatever publication. But one of them interviewed Mark Wright, and I thought something that he said that was so on the money was he said, you know, in 2013. It was an incredible achievement for UCF to win that Fiesta Bowl. I know, Brandon, you referenced that as like the number one moment where you were like, yeah, UCF can do this. UCF can be big time. UCF can be a Power 5 program. But Mark referenced that moment and said, hey, we weren't quite ready to capitalize on that from like a donorship standpoint, building that kind of, you know, financial structure into the athletic department. So I think Mark Wright, he has withstood a few different athletic directors and always guided with a steady hand the donorship growth of UCF. I think he's been absolutely huge and critical in the building of this thing.
Helwig, I think too. I mean, we're talking about a lot of people of admin and, you know, going to school the same time as the Salvo and just kind of bringing that attitude and, you know, his acumen to what he's kind of got us to now and has our tone. But I got to tell you, man, it doesn't start without people like yourself that kind of created a passion and got me hooked, man. Because I remember being freshman year being like, there's not a lot of people talking about UCF sports, and they were just like, you got to go to UCFsports.com. And it was so cool to kind of have a little bit of a community. And now you look at the ecosystem of content where you literally have a podcast each day, whether it's the Suns or Black and Gold Banneret, or the Pegasus podcast, and all that is a testament to you, brother. So this is a proud day for you as well.
It. Thank you.
And we appreciate you, man.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And one thing Dali, you had a really good tweet today, just recognizing some of the nights we've lost and people that would be so proud of where UCF is right now. I know you tweeted about James, Cost Edge advisor. He was on with us on one of these shows I think it was in the preseason, you know, a few weeks before he passed. And, you know, such a huge Knight fan. I've got to know him through the message board. Gosh, I don't know when he was on there forever. He was obviously on Twitter, and a lot of people knew him from there. And, you know, Lynn, there's a lot of great fans that we've lost that, you know, they're going to be looking down on maybe for that first Big 12 home game, because I know this was really important to people like that.
Yeah, James was great, and you know, he was at all the games. Actually, I met him, I think it was 2014 or 15. We were actually in the same section. He was one row up from me. We knew each other on, I think, the dungeon, and I was like, James? And he was like, yeah. And he always had his little white towel. And all the basketball games, he was always up and rowdy on all the basketball games. And very proud to know him, gotten to know him over the years, and his family's great. You know, just he was a fan through and through. And people forget he was a directionally challenged school graduate and came over to UCF's fandom. And he was as much, or if not more, of a fan than the vast majority of the alums. So tip my cap to him. He was a good dude, good person, and great family, and sorely missed.
Very well put. Very well put. So UCF officially in the Big 12. Do we want to have any parting thoughts before we end our show tonight? I guess, I don't know, Roger, just kind of what are kind of your thoughts to sum up this evening and where UCF is headed, and now that you know it's official?
Well, first of all, let's go. Right. Super excited about that. Can't wait to tip my cup at my first Big 12 game tailgate. But other than that, look, I think this is the culmination of a lot of years of hard work by a lot of different people, a lot of different fans, a lot of heartache, and you know, just consistency in going towards the prize when we had the ups and downs. So for UCF, I think this is a seminal moment in the history of the program. I think this is the next jumping off point for us nationally as far as relevance is concerned. And thank you, Dr. Hitt. That's another thing to mention. Without Dr. Hitt's vision and buy-in, this wouldn't have happened. Orsini mentioned this numerous times. But for tonight, it's a night of celebration. It's a night of validation, and for the future, it's bright, ever upward in our flight, right? So that's where I'm going to leave it, because this is the next stepping stone for who we're going to be as a athletic brand and a university.
Awesome. What about you, Carson? What are kind of your parting thoughts about tonight?
Sure. Well, I think Dr. Hitt, huge, Roger. That definitely, you think about him tonight and how much this would have meant for him, but he already knew that UCF was sort of on this trajectory. The various donors that took his cue, and some of them even maybe having to kind of give him a nudge and say, hey, like, big time football is going to move what you're trying to do on the academic side ahead. The Dick Nunes's of the world, the Jerry Roths of the world, the Tony Nicholsons of the world, those people vitally critical in the growth of what UCF is today. And then I would just say on and on. I mean, to George O'Leary, on to Scott Frost, and now to Gus Malzahn. The gauntlet is passed, and the mission is still the same. It's not a fan base. It's not a program. It's not a university that backs down. It's a university that continues to strive to move forward and to continue to do the best that they absolutely can. And I mean, like I said earlier, I think the sky is the limit in the Big 12. The Big 12 is an extremely competitive conference. So many great schools in it, but so many almost evenly matched schools, and you feel that kind of competitive balance here in the Big 12, and maybe you wouldn't see it in the SEC or the ACC or another league like that. So the mission now is, okay, well, we're doing pretty good, and the recruiting is looking up, but how do we win this thing? And let's go do that. And listen, they won the league in year one of the American. Why not go out there and win the league in year one of the Big 12? I don't think it's crazy. I think it's very, very within the sights of this program, of what they've built, of what they're growing. So why not UCF?
Absolutely. What about you, Chris? What are your final thoughts on this momentous eve for UCF?
Smoke them if you got them. Incredible stuff, man. I mean, it's just as simple as that. Like, seeing everything that we like. Carson was there when we went to that Peach Bowl game, and we were all like in freaking tears. And it was insane seeing how many people were there. And I'm looking back. I'm like, we're in like the 12th row. And I was like, man, again, I'm looking back at that Samford game, and I'm like, did I go to the right school? I want to go to a school that has, like, semi-competent football and basketball and whatever. And like in short order, it was as if a switch just like went off, and it's been going ever since. Yeah, you have some weird things happen, but then again, the ebbs and flows. But absolutely amazing. I can't wait, man. It's just game day. Yeah, FS1. I haven't turned on FS1 in years, so it's going to be exciting again. Rediscover new channels. The news that the Big 12 is going to have Thursday, weekday games. I was just like, okay, here come the caveats. But, if we get a couple of those Thursday, Friday games with a Big 12 in conference thing, I'm just so excited, man. It's not going to be against, like, not to be mean to Kent State or anything, but like a Thursday. It's just going to be so much fun, man. I'm excited.
Yeah. Eddie, what about you? What are your final thoughts about tonight?
This is where the fun begins. No, this is huge for anybody who's, whether you were a fan during any of the winless seasons, whether you're a fan when, the biggest game on the schedule was ECU in conference, in those early Conference USA days, like, and then fans well beyond years and me, who saw the team go from D3 to D2 to, it wasn't FCS then, and it was called something else. Like it, just that trajectory. Anybody who's seen that, like how sweet this has got to be for you. I mean, this is a day for all UCF fans to celebrate. But yeah, anybody who, it is a little sweeter though if you've suffered at all as a fan, and now it's like, man, here we are.
Awesome. What about you, C. Duden? What are your thoughts to kind of put a cap on this momentous evening?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, obviously, I'm a younger alumni of UCF, and starting out from that first Conference USA win, going to the Liberty Bowl against Mississippi State, one of the worst experiences of my life.
It was so cold, so cold,
terrible thing, just a bad experience. But like just seeing that growth from like the stadium getting built on campus. And obviously people before, like as you all have said, people before that have really got to that point to get to the campus on stadium. But then over time, you have George O'Leary and that administration kind of like build the foundation. Then you have the coaches after that, Scott Frost and Heupel, all those types of things, to see it kind of become a reality today where like the rug, at least for now, isn't pulled underneath us, unlike when he went to the Big East that became the American. And it's just an amazing thing in such a short amount of time. It's just a testament to, despite all the challenges within the state of for UCF, and all the roadblocks that have been put in front of us, that we kind of overcame that. It's really, really, really cool to see as a younger alumni I didn't experience a lot of that firsthand, but I just know about it, hear about it from being on this forum and just being around people like this. So for sure, it's an awesome night for sure.
Well said. What about you, Dolly? What are your final thoughts tonight?
I mean, to see realized potential actualized is the best. We've all known kind of what makes this place special. And now we're going to have people from, West Texas to the Little Apple to the rolling hills of West Virginia come into town and see a different piece of Orlando that they haven't seen before. We're going to be able to share that with them. And, we're not just here to take part. We're kind of here to take over, like we do at every step that we come to. So the youngest P5 to ever make it, the 69th, if you will, which is pretty sweet as well. And
nice.
There's a lot of potential to be realized, and the road is long, but it's going to be fun.
Yeah, and to kind of put closing thoughts on tonight and everything that's happened. I mean, for me, I think I've used the word surreal a lot, but I feel like that's happened a lot of times over the last, gosh, like it's probably been about 25 plus years since I've, pretty much my entire life has revolved around UCF. I mean, every waking hour of every day, honestly, since probably 1997 has been revolving around UCF, whether it's just checking the message board or, producing content or, going to games or traveling or press conferences. It's kind of wild when I think about it. I'm not really sure when it all started in a way, like when did I really get hooked? I guess it goes back to that 1997 year. And, obviously Dante Culpepper, the buzz, I was still in high school back then, but just the buzz of Dante Culpepper and the fact that, I was a kid who grew up in Orlando and, when you go to school, you were, Florida fan, Florida State, Miami, no one ever talked about UCF. I mean, nobody. I mean, I think I knew one kid in Winter Park whose family went to UCF games, but everyone was a Florida State fan. And when I was 10 years old, I was watching Florida State on TV. I was rooting for Florida. I didn't know any better, but the fact that when UCF became a 1A program, even though they weren't playing week in and week out maybe the name opponents, but the fact that you could look at a schedule and you can see, oh, UCF's playing Ole Miss, they're going on the road to South Carolina, they're playing Nebraska, they're playing big time football. I mean, that just really clicked for me, and just that's when the community aspect, I think, really started to come together. Because Orlando was probably a Florida Gator town, 20 plus years ago, and maybe it still was for much of the 2000s, but there's no denying now, there's no argument that Orlando is a UCF town. I used to see kids on campus at UCF, even early 2000, even really before there was a stadium, they'd be walking around with Florida State shirts on. That doesn't happen anymore. I mean, there's probably kids walking around the Florida campus with the UCF shirts. It probably happens just as much there now than it just was a rare occurrence. But just to see how much this program has grown. I mean, going to, basketball games when there's literally like maybe 20 people in the stands and I'm the only one that cares. Being media at a basketball game and I'm the only one that's there. I mean, that happened a lot. I mean, I don't know if people understand that the Orlando Sentinel, they didn't cover basketball every game. If it was the holidays, if it was like a December 23rd game or something, they weren't there. I was.
Shout out Kyle Hightower.
If there was UCF practice availability in spring practice, I was there. Maybe I was the only one there so many times. Like I've seen, like I was the only one who cared. So for me, it's just been a lot of fun, a lot of fantastic memories, a lot of great friendships that I'm looking at the screen right now with a lot of guys that I would consider my close friends. So just a really great day. I know it's kind of anticlimactic. I mean, we've known this is coming since September of 2021, but for this moment to finally be here and just reflecting on, the hours and the weeks and the years that you've kind of dedicated your life to UCF, today is a really special day.
It really is. I think we see it through the journey. We see it through you. And I can't imagine what it's like for you because you've been at every moment. You've traveled on the roads. You have seen the heartfelt defeats as much as the wins, right? So as joyous as the wins are, the defeats were the hardest to take. And then constantly taking one step forward and feeling like we took one step back, right? Because of things that happen around us. So I can't imagine what it's like for you, Brandon. I mean, for all of us, it's a passion, but for you, it's a purpose. And that's a wholly different experience. And I feel like, and I know DeSalvo feels that way because I talk to DeSalvo on a regular basis. I've known him for years too. They are all very aware of what you mean to UCF and UCF fandom. So I feel like this is as much a validation of the work that you have put into it and how you've helped us move forward. So, kudos to you. All of us have our own feelings about it because of our own journeys, but I can't imagine what it's like for you to finally get that. And hopefully I've seen you on more media channels now, which I love, far be it from Nightline when you were on the radio with us or like anywhere else. Right. But now you're on 365. You're starting, people at national media are quoting you, all of these things. I hope you realize like your voice carries a lot of weight now.
Well, I appreciate those thoughts, Roger. And well, tonight's been a lot of fun. Enough about me, but this has been a lot of fun. Just kind of commemorating the occasion. We're going to have these semi-regularly once we get closer to preseason camp and football season. I'd love to kind of get a network of Big 12 fans just to kind of come on and kind of have roundtables to talk about different topics because. I love this format, and someone maybe we should have brought up was the West Virginia dude who another fan that we lost here in the last few months. I used to pop on YouTube all the time and just click on his live streams and stuff. That was a lot of fun. But guys, I've had a blast. Welcome to the Big 12, and go Knights.
Charge on.
Charge on, baby. It was fun.
All right.
You deserve it,
Good
B.
night.
You deserve it. See you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.